This girl is Sue Wei, talented and sharp, but she grew up with an indelible emotional wound. Her parents died early in a suspicious car accident. From then on, she was secretly adopted by Ji Yi, her father's close friend. Returning after a long period of studying abroad, Sue Wei carried doubts about her parents' death and a desire to uncover the truth, wondering if her respectable adoptive father was truly innocent. Then, a calculated encounter happened in the elevator of the Shengyu group. Sue Wei rushed into the elevator in such a hurry that she bumped into a man inside. In that moment, her lips lightly touched his collar, unintentionally leaving a bright red lipstick stain. The man with the lipstick stain was none other than Xinyu, Mr. Bai's biological son, who was famous for his philandering ways despite wearing a doctor's coat. When Sue Wei was officially introduced as the adoptive daughter, and also serving as vice president of Shengyu Group, Xinyu suddenly realized she was the girl he had once met in a bar. His gaze became probing, while she appeared calm, as if it were their first meeting. Between them, from then on, began a silent tug-of-war. He suspected her of having ulterior motives, and she responded calmly, with sharp wit and intelligence. In front of her adoptive father and mother, Sue Wei smiled and greeted her younger brother, as she was slightly older, making the atmosphere even more stifling. Mr. Bai, meanwhile, reprimanded his son for the suspicious lipstick stain on his collar, and mentioned the arranged marriage with the Yun family, which Xinyu strongly opposed. When she learned that Xinyu often avoided his family, Aunt Yin asked Sue Wei to persuade him to return. She went to the bar he frequented. He not only refused to return, but also challenged her to a game. If she won, he would go home. During the game, eyes, breaths, and distances all became ambiguous. Sue Wei fell into his arms, won, and made him keep his promise. On the way back, both encountered an old friend of Sue Wei's named Xiao Yu, who seemed likely to disrupt the remaining peaceful days. Qin Yu quickly realized he was a young doctor who had just transferred to the department. He didn't like being the odd one out, so he intended to take Sue Wei home, but she refused, wanting to talk to her old friend a bit longer. Returning to her room, Sue Wei was unexpectedly pinned against the wall by Qin Yu. Not stopping at just barging in, he brazenly hacked her computer password and took her important USB drive. Sue Wei angrily snatched it back, but he quickly put it in his pocket. She looked directly at him, saying that if she didn't investigate clearly herself, she had no right to exist in the company. In a moment of struggle, she slowly pressed closer, her hand slipping into his shirt pocket to retrieve the USB drive. But Qin Yu brushed her off. Refusing to give up, Sue Wei settled neatly into his lap, half jokingly, half seriously whispering, "Don't worry, I'll protect you." In the vaguely tense atmosphere, an unexpected gesture from her, touching his earlobe, made Qin Yu freeze. That action brought back childhood memories, when an orphan girl did the exact same thing. Could Sue Wei be that girl from years ago? But contrary to his emotional reaction, Sue Wei appeared cold, denying everything. Qin Yu didn't give up, pinning her against the wall, his eyes questioning. Only when Aunt Yin called him down for dinner did he release her, then quickly left again. Sue Wei went to see her adoptive father and only then learned that Qin Yu's biological mother also died in her biological parents' car accident that year. What else was hidden that he so adamantly advised her to forget the past? The next morning, Sue Wei went to the home of the driver, Chu Qi, the sole survivor of the accident years ago. She discovered he had received a large sum of money from the Bai family. But when she arrived, he had already passed away. The only one left was Shi Tan, his granddaughter. The little girl mistook Sue Wei for her mother, but was rejected and ran off in a panic. When Sue Wei chased after her, she unexpectedly saw Qin Yu standing ahead. In her confusion, Shi Tan fainted. As a doctor, he immediately took the little girl to the emergency room. At that moment, he noticed Sue Wei's leg was bleeding, so he took off his coat to cover her dress, carried her back to a private room, and disinfected the wound. Assistant Xie never expected a stone to bloom one day, so he tactfully left to give the two some privacy. While disinfecting the wound, his voice deepened, full of hidden meaning. "You still owe me an answer, Sue Wei." After that, he instructed that before the little girl woke up, she was not allowed to leave, and even had to stay overnight. When he returned, Sue Wei was fast asleep. He quietly observed her face, unconsciously thinking. She looked surprisingly docile when she slept. But at that very moment, his eyes stopped on the necklace around her neck, an object so familiar that it startled him. It was the item an orphan girl used to wear years ago. When he bent down to touch it, Sue Wei unexpectedly woke up and grabbed his hand. She put her arms around his neck, half teasing, half warning. "Little brother, what are you trying to do? But this place doesn't seem quite right, does it?" After that, they went to visit little Shi Tan. Assistant Xie asked who this little girl was, and Qin Yu said she called Sue Wei mom. Before Sue Wei could say anything, little Shi Tan woke up, hugged Qin Yu, and claimed him as her father. Indeed, putting fire in someone else's hand only burns your own. A moment later, Yu brought the child's medical records. The little girl had severe congenital heart disease and needed urgent surgery, but the cost was too high. Yu immediately said he would pay in advance for her. Then Sue Wei went to find the little Shi Tan's only remaining relative, her uncle, who had defrauded her grandfather of money and now abandoned her in an orphanage without caring for her. While investigating, Yu brought an important document, a report about the old accident case. The car that caused Sue Wei's biological parents' accident was the car Yu was driving from the Bai family. The report stated the cause of loss of control was brake failure. That night, when she returned home, Sue Wei was secretly looking for documents when she was caught. Yu walked in from behind and hugged her. "What are you looking for?" He snatched the book she was holding, and a piece of paper fell out. He exposed her disguise, acting obedient in front of his father, but wild and provocative in front of him. But Sue Wei didn't back down. She said, "Who in this world doesn't have a few faces? Even you, a benevolent doctor by day, a philanderer by night. Aren't you tired?" After she left, Yu picked up the paper. He began to suspect. Why did she want to reconfirm responsibility in the old accident? At the same time, Sue Wei found out that Bin, a small link in the case, was now connected to Shengyu Group. She arranged to meet Bin. He pretended not to recognize her, even making a blatant suggestion. How much per night? When Sue Wei seriously wanted to talk, he pretended to be polite and invited her to a quieter place. Just as he was about to force her, Yu appeared, blocking him and forcing Bin to retreat. On the way back, Sue Wei thanked him, but Yu countered, "Why are you investigating Bin?" Realizing he seemed to care about her, Sue Wei softened. The next morning, Sue Wei went to the hospital to visit little Shi Tan and saw Yu there taking care of the little girl. When Yu arrived, seeing the three of them smiling and chatting happily together, just like a small family, an indescribable feeling of jealousy and irritation surged within him. Then a subsequent meeting with an old friend made Sue Wei deeply suspicious. Her parents had transferred all their shares to Ji before they died. Was this a coincidence, or was it coercion? The next day at the hospital, Sue Wei met Yu and coincidentally saw him involved in a dispute between a doctor and a patient. She immediately stepped in to mediate. That action made him recall the little girl from years ago who used to stand in front of him just like that. Unexpectedly, the patient became agitated and accidentally tore Sue Wei's coat. Yu reacted quickly, using his own coat to cover her, then took her to a changing room. He even bent down to zip up her dress. The atmosphere between them once again became ambiguous, both provocative and hinting at unspoken connections. That evening, on her way home, she was followed by a bad guy. Just as he attacked, Yu appeared, taking a hit to his back for her. Fortunately, he was tough, so he was unharmed. He also received personal care and medicine from Sue Wei, which helped him recover quickly. He wanted to ask her whom she had offended. Sue Wei didn't want to mention it, but she also guessed. The next day, Sue Wei unexpectedly received news that her parents' old house had been transferred to someone else's name. The new owner wanted to sell the house for 3 million yuan, far exceeding her financial means. At the same time, Yu received a painting from little Shi Tan, who said it had to be given directly to Sue Wei's mother. Only then would the little girl feel at ease with her heart surgery. Then, he had to turn off his phone to go into surgery. When he returned home from work, Yu went to Sue Wei's room to show her the painting. But he froze when he saw a cashier's check on the table. Before fully understanding what she needed the money for, he hastily concluded that she was approaching the Bai family for money. The truth was, before that, in desperation, she thought of borrowing money from Yu. But when she called, he couldn't answer, and her messages went unanswered. When she went home that evening to find him, he wasn't there. She had no choice but to go see Chairman Bai for help. Now Yu believed her true greedy colors were finally revealed. Sue Wei didn't explain, just coldly snatched the check back and left. He still chased after her, sarcastically saying that if she needed money, he could give it to her, because he had long known she was insatiably greedy. She only replied, "Whatever I am, it's none of your business." After that, Yu received a resounding slap from his father, who reprimanded him for daring to insult his older sister. When he went back to his room to check his phone, he saw Sue Wei's message asking to borrow money. Yin also walked in, clarifying that the check was a loan from Chairman Bai, just to keep the place that held memories of her late biological parents. Knowing he had made a huge misunderstanding, Yu immediately went to find her. At the same time, Sue Wei was facing Bin, the person behind her attack. She directly splashed wine on his face, declaring that if he cooperated and revealed the truth about the accident years ago, she wouldn't pursue the matter and would even compensate him handsomely. But before the agreement could materialize, Yu unexpectedly appeared, forcing Bin to retreat. Seeing Sue Wei wasn't feeling well, Yu carried her on his back. On the way, he softly apologized, and she smiled and accepted. The little Shi Tan's surgery also went well. She recovered quickly and went out to play with Chiyoyu. But as soon as she saw her father, Mr. Bai, the little girl rushed to hug him, not even wanting Chiyoyu's candy, and kept asking where Mom Sue was. Chin Yu hugged the little girl and said her mother was sick for a few days and couldn't visit. Hearing this, Chiyoyu was anxious to ask about her, but Chin Yu said it wasn't her duty, saying, "I'm taking care of her," then carried little Shitan away. Chiyoyu watched, feeling angry. That evening, despite having a fever, Sue Wei tried to take a shower, but the shower head in her room was broken. If Aunt Yun found out, she would be scolded again. So taking advantage of Chin Yu not being home from work yet, she went to his room to shower. Unexpectedly, as soon as she stepped out, she came face to face with Chin Yu, who had just returned. Her eyes were full of awkwardness, while his were full of curiosity, observing the necklace she was wearing. He asked, "What does that necklace mean? You've been to an orphanage, haven't you?" But Sue Wei only dodged the question, pretending not to understand. Just then, Aunt Yun, unable to find Sue Wei and hearing voices in Chin Yu's room, asked for permission to enter. He had no choice but to hide Sue Wei under the blanket and lied to Aunt Yun that he was tired from surgery and wanted a rest. But his aunt said his father was looking for him and had something to say. Later, when talking to his father, Chin Yu was reminded of the accident years ago, the death of his mother. He angrily claimed that his mother died because his father loved another woman. But this time, the truth was revealed. It was his own mother who drove the car that caused the accident, killing 3 people, including Sue Wei's parents. He felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him, realizing he had wrongly blamed Sue Wei all this time. The next morning, Sue Wei brought the check to buy back her old house, but the owner informed her he wouldn't sell it anymore. The son's debts had been paid off, and it turned out Chin Yu had secretly helped. That evening, when the two were together, he cared for her like a truly beloved person, regardless of illness or distance. Aunt Yun witnessed the scene, unable to hide her worry. The next day, she went to him to remind him. The relationship between him and Sue Wei was brother and sister. Not to mention he was engaged to Yin Sha, her granddaughter, who was about to return to the country. But Chin Yu firmly stated he would not let anyone arrange his marriage. If forced, he was ready to break off the engagement. After that, Sue Wei brought the check back to Chairman Bai, but he refused. He said that years ago, her parents had helped their company overcome a crisis, and now it was time for him to return what belonged to her. That softened Sue Wei's heart, but she still harbored an unresolved suspicion. Who was behind the accident that year? At this moment, she received a call from Assistant Xie, Chin Yu's subordinate, asking for her help. Arriving at the bar, she saw Chin Yu sitting quietly beside a cake, completely drunk. It was his mother's birthday today. She understood his sadness and gently advised him to move past the past because the deceased wouldn't want to see him live in torment. And those who remained still had to live on, still had many things to protect and love. After being gently encouraged by Sue Wei, a strange warmth surged within Chin Yu. He softly thanked her, then stood up to leave. But as soon as he stepped onto the street, a dangerous scene unexpectedly unfolded. With instant reflexes, he rushed to hug Sue Wei tightly, saving her from an oncoming car. In that moment, the two embraced tightly, as if fearing the loss of the important person left in their lives. After that, both went back to Sue Wei's old house. The house was now a mess due to stray cats. Chin Yu, without a word, personally cleaned every spot. Seeing his quiet and dedicated demeanor, Sue Wei suddenly felt a rare gentleness and patience from him. Although initially a bit shy, she blurted out that he was indeed a special person. When he entered the room, his eyes stopped at a photo on the table. A flood of memories suddenly rushed back. The little girl in the photo, with bright eyes and a brave smile, wasn't she the one who had protected him and his best friend from bullies years ago? Emotions surging, he unconsciously hugged Sue Wei tightly, and both fell onto the bed. While Chin Yu was about to kiss her to express his feelings, she stopped him, but clearly, her heart was no longer as cold as before. When he returned home, Chin Yu couldn't stop thinking about her. He wanted to hug her, kiss her, because only when he was close to her did his heart feel at peace. But before he could do anything, Aunt Yun unexpectedly walked in. The two quickly left the room in an awkward state. That night, Chin Yu lay on the bed, holding a picture of the little girl from years ago, silently vowing, "This time, I won't let Sue Wei be my older sister anymore." As for Sue Wei, she sat in front of the mirror, quietly reflecting on the emotions surging within her heart. The next day, she arranged to meet Chiyoyu to receive the investigation documents he had collected. And it was information showing he'd been owed a large sum of money. An idea flashed in Sue Wei's mind. She could use this to force him to tell the truth about the accident years ago. Chiyoyu promised to go with her to protect her, but from a distance. But Chin Yu observed the two of them. At the same time, Ibin was beaten up by his creditors. Desperate, he began to look for someone else to take his place. When Sue Wei arrived at their meeting point, she called and called, but Chiyoyu didn't come. Unbeknownst to her, he was being threatened by someone else who told him not to interfere in others' affairs. So Sue Wei faced Ibin alone. She said that although she didn't have much money, her adoptive father was VE, and she would use money from the Bai family to pay him if he told the truth. But he immediately shouted for his creditors to kidnap her as a hostage, saying 2 million yuan was nothing, and they could demand tens of millions from the Bai family instead. In that critical moment, her male lead appeared once again. Qing Yu rushed in, seized a weapon, and defeated them all, even though he himself was injured. Despite taking a blow to his back, his face remained calm. He threw a punch to knock out an enemy. It was truly the protagonist's aura that gave him the strength to lift her into his arms and carry her away. After that, he took Sue Wei to the hospital to treat her wounds. Although it was only a small scratch, he treated it as if she were seriously injured, carefully attending to every detail. However, when he stood up, he unexpectedly fainted. The next day, Sue Wei went to visit him. When she saw he was still fast asleep, she gently stroked his hair. But Qing Yu suddenly grabbed her hand, his eyes soft and deep. "If you want to touch me, do it openly and honestly." Sue Wei was flustered, unsure how to react. And then she learned the reason he came to her rescue in time. The day before, he had gone into her room and saw documents on her table, including the meeting location with Ibin. Just then, Qing Yu's parents came to visit. His father was also very worried about his son, but pretended not to care. Sue Wei called Qiu Yu, asking if he had encountered any trouble, as he hadn't come to their meeting last night and wasn't at the hospital today either. But he lied, saying he had fallen. She wanted to visit, but he stopped her. When she brought Soup back to visit Qing Yu, she saw Assistant Xie massaging his shoulders and heard him remind Assistant Xie not to call Sue Wei's sister-in-law in front of her, fearing she would be displeased. His subordinate teased him, asking if he would teach him anything else when he was still alive. Qing Yu replied, "Only when I'm not with Sue Wei." They didn't expect that Sue Wei would misunderstand that Qing Yu was ill. When she entered, Qing Yu didn't miss the chance to act spoiled, asking her to feed him. To his surprise, Sue Wei didn't refuse, but gently spooned the soup to feed him. In that moment, Qing Yu's heart melted. After making Qing Yu finish the entire bowl of soup, Sue Wei, out of worry, proactively asked his subordinate for clarification about his condition. Unexpectedly, he fabricated a story that made her heart stop. That Qing Yu was suffering from a terminal illness, and his time was running out. His last wish was to spend the rest of his days with her. Sure enough, Sue Wei immediately went to him, gently caring for him, tenderly and attentively, just as he had always wished. Their feelings for each other were never spoken, but were evident in every glance, every caring gesture, without needing words. When she softly said, "Qing Yu, come home with me," he smiled, and they returned to Sue Wei's old house, a place that held childhood memories. Sue Wei's eyes suddenly welled up as she recounted the old days, when she and her parents visited the orphanage. There, she had met a small boy who often cried and was bullied for daring to protect others. That boy especially loved star-shaped lights. Qing Yu seemed to have waited for this moment for a long time. He softly exhaled, confessing it wasn't that he liked star-shaped lights, but that he liked a person like a star, which was her. And coincidentally, the person Sue Wei loved now was also him. They shared a sweet kiss, as if to confirm all the emotions that had accumulated for so long. She asked, half jokingly, "Don't you want a gentle girlfriend?" Qing Yu burst into laughter, replying that he had imagined countless times how gentle she would be with him. But now he no longer needed to imagine. He wanted them to be honest with each other, for their hearts to freely express what they had never dared to say. She hugged him tightly and said she had sworn not to lose the one she loved ever again. Now, thinking he was about to die from illness, she truly understood her feelings. But he felt something was wrong. When did he get a terminal illness? He was a doctor. How could he not know? It turned out Assistant Xie fabricated the story. He immediately gritted his teeth, saying he would teach his subordinate a good lesson. Before he could stay angry for long, they drew close again, but Sue Wei suddenly rushed into her room, locked the door, leaving him standing outside. It was because of this missed opportunity that he went to beat up Assistant Xie the next day, and also gave him more work to keep him from gossiping. Night fell. In the quiet and chilly air, she went to his room to invite him for a drink. When the glass was full, Sue Wei tried to stop him from drinking too much. Qing Yu only smiled, replying softly yet firmly, "I'm a doctor. I know my limits." But Sue Wei wouldn't back down, declaring, "If you don't listen to me, I'll leave." As soon as she finished speaking, he unexpectedly pulled her into his arms, a tight, warm embrace that made her heart pound wildly. However, the quiet didn't last. Aunt Yun's footsteps echoed outside. They panicked, quickly hiding in the closet. Her heart pounding, Sue Wei could almost feel every beat of Qing Yu's chest pressed against hers. Aunt Yun opened the room door, her eyes searching every corner. Not seeing anyone, she left full of doubt. Qingyu was about to sigh in relief and open the closet door when Aunt Yun unexpectedly returned. Fortunately, he managed to quickly slam it shut, narrowly escaping the awkward situation. In that tense moment, they found each other with a passionate kiss. Sue Wei clearly felt his desire and sincere affection through every touch of their lips, but her rationality forced her to hold back her heart's beat. She knew this love needed time to mature, and that the waiting itself would make it deeper. From the day Sue Wei returned to the Bai family, Qingyu began to change noticeably, listening more to his father, which surprised Mr. Yi. In front of his father and Aunt Yun, Sue Wei had to admit that her younger brother had truly grown up. At dinner, Qingyu secretly held Sue Wei's hand under the table, making her heart flutter with emotion. That night, when the lights in Sue Wei's room were still on, Qingyu unexpectedly entered, hugging her tightly. She worriedly looked towards the door of the next room. "We can't let Aunt and Father know." Qingyu understood, but his eyes shone with determination. "I want to make this relationship public," but she said his father had heart disease and needed to wait until the appropriate time. The next morning, breakfast proceeded as usual, only their hearts were more excited than ever. Qingyu offered to take Sue Wei to work, but she refused, worried Aunt Yun would suspect. Unwilling to back down, he bent down and lightly kissed her cheek, a gesture both gentle and resolute. Just then, Mystery walked out the door, accidentally witnessing everything. That evening, despite a packed work schedule, Sue Wei canceled her plans to go on a date. But when Qingyu was about to go home to change, his father stopped him and slapped him across the face. Mr. Yi brought up Yun Sha's impending return and announced the arranged marriage. Defiant, Qingyu still affirmed that he would only marry the one he loved, Sue Wei. Mr. Yi angrily forbade him from seeing Sue Wei, even sending 2 bodyguards to follow him closely, confiscating his phone and putting him under house arrest at a hotel. Meanwhile, Sue Wei waited at their usual spot, her heart filled with anticipation. When a flower was brought to her, she smiled, thinking he had arrived. But when she looked up, her smile vanished because the person who appeared was Qiuyu. He knew she was waiting for Qingyu, so he deliberately caused trouble, but Sue Wei was still sympathetic because she understood that a doctor's job was busy. Qiuyu offered to go on a date, but he couldn't sway her heart. The next morning, unable to contact Qingyu, Sue Wei went to see Mr. Yi but only received an indifferent attitude and a lie that Qingyu was out playing around. Not believing it, she and Qiuyu went to search everywhere. On the way back, Qingyu unexpectedly appeared, blocking their car. His whole body was injured, but he still bravely broke free. Meeting again, they hugged tightly, as if afraid the other would disappear again. The sight was unbearable for Qiuyu, so he honked his car horn repeatedly. Qingyu wondered why she was with him. She said he had helped her search everywhere for him. When they returned, Sue Wei applied medicine for him. Qingyu firmly stated, "No matter how father objects, I will still be by your side." He worried that if he didn't appear, Sue Wei might be taken by someone else, especially Qiuyu, who always hovered around her. But Sue Wei was decisive. She only saw Qiuyu as a younger brother, and her heart belonged only to Qingyu. They didn't know that Qiuyu had overheard their entire conversation. Hearing Sue Wei say she would keep her distance, Qiuyu was extremely angry. The next day, Sue Wei went to see Mr. Yi, apologizing that her relationship with Qingyu was too sudden, fearing it would affect Shengyu Group. With a heavy heart, she decided to resign, accepting to sacrifice her beloved job just to keep their love. But Mr. Yi disagreed, even declaring, "The two of you can only be together when I am dead." Before Sue Wei pressed him, he finally admitted she was his biological daughter. Years ago, her mother died giving birth to her, and he was forced to enter into an arranged marriage with the Yun family. So he had no choice but to send her to Sue In and his wife to raise. Even though Sue In and his wife had passed away, Mr. Yi still couldn't publicly reveal Sue Wei's true identity. He could only claim her as an adopted daughter to bring her back to the Bai family. He still felt tormented that he had let her live far from him for so many years. But because Sue In and his wife loved her like their own daughter, he didn't want that harsh truth to hurt her further. Knowing that she and Qingyu were half-siblings, Sue Wei felt like she had fallen into an abyss. She didn't know how to face Qingyu. The only way was to stay away from him before their relationship crossed a line. She chose to be decisive, even though her heart ached to the point of numbness. That night, she drank to drown her sorrows. In her drunken state, she mistook Qiuyu for Qingyu and hugged him tightly. Qiuyu took her home, caring for her all night. But even in her dreams, Sue Wei only called one name, Qingyu. He was angry, but then saw Qingyu calling Sue Wei, so he answered without saying anything. The next morning, she arranged to meet Qingyu at home to break up with him. Unexpectedly, as soon as he arrived, he met Yun Sha there. He immediately declared he was breaking off his engagement with her, which stunned Mr. Yi and Aunt Yun. But Sue Wei returned, praising Yunsha for being beautiful and lively, very suitable for his younger brother. In Qing Yu's astonished eyes, she firmly stated, "From now on, call me older sister." She asked to move out of the Bai family's house, citing work as the reason, and affirmed she would attend his wedding. To make Qing Yu lose heart, she also said that between them, they were not compatible, and she found herself more suitable for Qiu Yu. Qing Yu, enraged, forcibly kissed her. She slapped him, coldly declaring, "We are just siblings." He suspected coercion from Mr. E, but she denied it, just saying briefly, "I'm tired of it." Even so, Qing Yu still didn't believe her. He knew she was hiding a deep sorrow. Sue Wei returned to her old house, drinking to forget her worries. Unexpectedly, her best friend, Yin Ning, came to visit. Sue Wei tried to act like she was fine, but Yin Ning hugged her tightly and comforted her, saying she knew everything and that it would all pass. Meanwhile, Qing Yu went to a bar to drink. Yin Sha saw this and ran to stop him. Not long after, Sue Wei and Yin Ning also entered the bar. Meeting Qing Yu again, Sue Wei intended to avoid him, but Yin Ning held her back and challenged him to a drinking contest. Yin Sha couldn't stand the sight and spoke up to stop them. Sue Wei coldly replied, Yin Sha should worry about holding on to her fiancé. A moment later, Qiu Yu also arrived. Sue Wei stood up, intending to leave, but she fell. Qiu Yu immediately carried her away. On the way, she told him to put her down, but Qiu Yu took this opportunity to say bluntly, "The best way to forget a man is to love another." Sue Wei only gave a faint smile, softly replying, "From now on, don't mention this again." Unexpectedly, Qing Yu was nearby and had overheard everything. He felt even more heartbroken witnessing Sue Wei and Qiu Yu's intimacy. The next day, Qiu Yu intentionally waited. As soon as he saw Qing Yu appear, he couldn't hide his excitement. He loudly raised his phone, his voice somewhat sarcastic. "Sister, do you want to ask me out for dinner?" "Of course I'm free." That noon, Sue Wei and Qiu Yu went to celebrate finding a heart donor for little Shitan. However, Qiu Yu deliberately overacted as if they were on a date. Just then, Qing Yu and Yun Sha also coincidentally arrived at the restaurant. Being acquaintances, Yun Sha happily suggested, "How about we eat together?" Sue Wei hesitated slightly, feeling awkward. Seeing the hesitation in her eyes, Qing Yu let out a soft laugh, walked over, and sat beside her, his eyes mischievous. "What's wrong? Are you afraid we'll disturb your date?" Sue Wei maintained her composure, responding unflinchingly, "I'm just afraid of disturbing my younger brother and his fiancée's dinner." Finally, the whole group sat down to eat together. When the wine glasses were raised, Sue Wei couldn't help but remember what Qing Yu once said, "From now on, every time we clink glasses, you have to kiss me." Her heart clenched, her emotions a mess. Trying to stay calm, she stood up and excused herself to go to the restroom. Qing Yu immediately followed. Yin Sha also intended to follow, but was stopped by Qiu Yu. It turned out the two of them had known each other. After Yin Sha returned to the country, Qiu Yu sought her out to cooperate with a non-simple goal, each of them taking what they wanted. In the restroom, Sue Wei fell into a state of depression, needing the support of medication. Qing Yu walked in, his eyes wide with panic when he saw her taking some kind of medicine. He pressed her with questions, but Sue Wei only smiled faintly. "What does that have to do with you?" Outside, she made an excuse about not feeling well to ask to leave early, refusing Qing Yu's offer to take her home and asking Qiu Yu to take her instead. He could only silently watch her figure fade away, his heart feeling constricted. Qiu Yu took her home. He wanted to stay and take care of her, but he was mercilessly sent away, unable to bear it. Just a moment later, Qing Yu arrived at Sue Wei's house. He knocked on the door, full of worry. As soon as the door opened, she tried to close it, but he quickly blocked it, his eyes filled with concern and anger. "Your complexion isn't good at all tonight. Are you okay?" But Sue Wei only curved her lips into a faint, icy smile. "I'm perfectly fine. It's just that whenever she saw the person she utterly despised, her body reacted that way." That cold sentence was like a knife tearing through Qing Yu's heart. Despite the suffocating pain, he still managed to ask why she was treating him so cruelly. But Sue Wei only curved her lips, her eyes cold, saying that their past feelings were nothing more than a joke. She resolutely asked him to leave, without a hint of reluctance. Qing Yu couldn't believe it was true. He trembled slightly, still stubbornly insisting, "I know you didn't mean that." But deep in Sue Wei's heart, every word she uttered was like a knife plunging into her own heart. She knew she had to be ruthless, to cut off his fragile hope so as not to drag him into the vortex of pain she was enduring. She couldn't let him continue to wait in vain. Sue Wei quietly turned away, slamming the door shut, as if closing off all the past. At the same time, Yin Sha came to complain to Aunt Yun, saying Sue Wei had charmed her Qing Yu. Knowing her granddaughter's stubbornness, she and Mr. E decided to hold the wedding next month. Meanwhile, Qiu Yu had delved deeper into his father's plan. To protect Sue Wei, he was forced to help his father track down Bin, promising to make sure that man would never appear before her again. In return, he only wished his father would let her go, but his father merely uttered a cold sentence. "Deal with it yourself. Don't make me do it." The next day, Qin Yu discovered suspicious signs between Qiu Group and Bin. Doubt arose in his heart. Was Qiu Yu truly protecting Sue Wei, or was he hiding some other conspiracy? That evening, Sue Wei went out to get some fresh air and unexpectedly saw many flowers, as if someone had arranged them. She also met Qin Yu again. His eyes were pained. He softly said, "When I first met you, you were always radiant like the sunlight, bright and full of life. Even if we're not together later, I hope you'll always be like a flower, always blooming, always happy." Those sincere words shattered Sue Wei's heart. Tears silently fell, but she still clenched her heart, coldly saying, "If you keep following me, I'll call the police." He still persistently asked why Sue Wei was treating him like that, but she only coldly replied, the feelings for him before were just a joke. After that, he dazedly left, but before he was out of the gate, he heard her scream. He quickly ran back and saw the water hose spraying wildly. He threw his coat over her, then used his tie to bind the leak. His shirt was completely wet, revealing her blurred chest underneath. They were close together again, but she was startled back to alertness. Entering the room, she held the adoptive father's share transfer contract in her hand. She said, "Do you want to know the price for our breakup? By Qin Yu, you're worth as much as father's shares in this Shengyu group." Qin Yu immediately returned to question his father. He still thought his father was forcing Sue Wei to give him up, but his father also announced his wedding to Yun Sha next month. He bitterly said that if his father could bribe Sue Wei, he should also find a way to bribe him into getting married. After that, he went to find Qiu Yu, intending to put him in his place and find out why he was approaching Sue Wei. But Qiu Yu mocked him, saying that during their time abroad, Qiu Yu was always by Sue Wei's side, caring for her. So how could someone who was only a brother for a few days, like Qin Yu, even compare? After that, he confidently left and went to Sue Wei to make her happy. But as soon as he saw Qin Yu following him, he pretended to have dust in his eye so she would blow it out for him. Sue Wei saw Qin Yu coming and immediately took Qiu Yu's hand, going into the house to talk. They drank and talked until late at night. Qin Yu waited outside for a long time, then also left. When he got home, he was again bothered by his tail. Yin Sha wanted Qin Yu to try the soup she learned to cook all day today. But he repeatedly insisted that he only saw her as a younger sister, and that when he protected her as a child, it was for that reason. He said he loved Sue Wei. Yin Sha immediately pulled out her phone to show him. Sue Wei was leaning on Qiu Yu's shoulder, and he had publicly announced her as his girlfriend on his social media. He looked at the photo, shocked and heartbroken, but he still refused to give up. The next morning, he rushed to buy a Dior ring, a ring known as the #1 proposal ring because each man could only buy it once. However, Yin Sha secretly took a photo of the scene and sent it to Sue Wei, then said that the two of them were buying wedding rings, which further broke Sue Wei's heart. Even though she went to see Qin Yu and he proposed to her, she was determined to break off the relationship. She said that she and Qiu Yu would be together. Although Qin Yu didn't believe anything she said to break up with him, and she had signed a transfer agreement even before they fell in love, he didn't believe anything. But he would still wait for her to change her mind. He wouldn't marry Yin Sha. He would wait until she was truly happy. In her agonizing pain, Sue Wei, though not wanting to leave Qin Yu, also couldn't stay. Yin Ning advised her to live abroad to escape this vortex. Finally, Sue Wei told Qiu Yu that she decided to leave. Immediately after, Qiu Yu gave Yin Sha the secretly recorded audio, revealing that Sue Wei was actually by Ji Yi's biological daughter, which meant she and Qin Yu were half-siblings. That night, Yin Sha gave medicine to a staff member to put in Sue Wei's wine. Qiu Yu texted Qin Yu the hotel address, so he would accidentally fall into the trap. When he opened the room door, Sue Wei was already drugged, half-conscious, and very weak. Just then, reporters swarmed in. From outside, frantic knocking echoed. The next morning, Sue Wei was admitted to the hospital. Qin Yu questioned Mr. Bai, and the truth was confirmed. Sue Wei was indeed his biological daughter, but he had originally intended to hide her under the identity of an adopted child. Qin Yu painfully blamed his father. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" So she had to bear everything alone. After learning the diagnosis, Qin Yu realized that Sue Wei suffered from severe depression. She appeared cheerful on the outside, but her soul was shattered. He regretted pushing her away without knowing. When Yun Sha arrived at the hospital, Qiu Yu pulled her aside and questioned if she had drugged Sue Wei. What if the two of them had actually done something to each other? Yun Sha casually admitted, "If I didn't act decisively, how would I get what I want? Besides, I thought you would be there. Who knew you called Qin Yu instead?" Qiu Yu sternly warned Yun Sha. She was not allowed to harm Sue Wei anymore. At the same time, Yin Ning walked in. Seeing Sue Wei still unconscious, she slapped Qin Yu. She blamed him, saying Sue Wei decided to go abroad to avoid getting entangled in his wedding. Yet this was the outcome. The next day, Qingyu quietly sent samples for DNA testing. At the same time, Qiuyu brought little Shitan to visit Sue Wei. Before arriving, he told the little girl not to mention Father Bai, because Father Bai was wrong. If she mentioned him, Mother Sue Wei would be heartbroken. But upon arriving and chatting for a few moments, the little girl asked if Father Bai was getting married soon. The question stunned both Sue Wei and Qiuyu. It took Sue Wei a moment to calm down and confirm. The little girl then asked why her mother wasn't marrying her father. Qiuyu only wanted to cover her mouth and send her out, but he couldn't. Sue Wei said her mother was Father Bai's older sister, and she would bless her father's wedding. She said little Tan would also be very beautiful at the wedding that day. As for Qingyu, he showed him the wedding schedule, but he still firmly refused to marry someone he didn't love. But Mystery said it would be good for Sue Wei, telling him to think of his older sister. He then hesitated, and then the results confirmed that Ji, Yi, and Sue Wei were indeed blood relatives. Heartbroken, he went to the hospital to visit her, calling her older sister a heartbreaking word. He naively thought he could protect her, but he was the one who hurt her the most. He only hoped she could stand up strong, just as she used to be a brave little Neza in the face of all difficulties. But now, the price of that forbidden love was a pain they both couldn't erase. After being discharged from the hospital, Sue Wei was more stable. But as soon as she saw Qiuyu off, Qingyu rushed forward and punched him in the face. He gritted his teeth. "You dare to harm Sue Wei? Did you think I didn't know who called the reporters to the hotel that day? She was also drugged by you. She almost died." Qiuyu didn't deny it. He said he did it to make Qingyu completely give up on Sue Wei. He pointed directly at Yin Sha as the one who drugged her, while he only wanted to create a shock to force Sue Wei out of Qingyu's life. Returning home, Qingyu confronted Yin Sha. He exposed all her despicable tricks, though Yin Sha still flatly denied it. But this time, he was no longer patient. "Out of respect for Aunt Yun, I overlooked it. But if you dare to touch Sue Wei again, I won't forgive you." Yin Sha clung to him in despair. But Qingyu coldly uttered a decisive remark: "I will not marry you." His words cut into Yin Sha's heart like a knife. Unable to win Qingyu's heart, she once again chose a despicable path, putting drugs in wine. She sent a message, calling Qingyu to come. But this time, he had completely blocked her contact. Desperate, Yin Sha called Qiuyu. Her voice choked, mixed with pain and anger. "It's because of you that Qingyu and I are in this mess. Now he's abandoned me. I don't want to live anymore." Qiuyu quickly rushed to find her. Unexpectedly, when he arrived, Yin Sha was completely drunk, her eyes red. Anger surged within him. What was so good about Qingyu that everyone wanted him? In his fury, Qiuyu picked up the glass of wine and drank it all in one gulp, completely unaware that it was the same glass Yin Sha had secretly drugged. Not long after, his body began to burn, and his mind reeled. Yin Sha, in a state of confusion, mixed with the effects of the alcohol, mistook him for Qingyu. In that blurred and confused moment, both lunged at each other, letting emotions and desires sweep away all boundaries and reason. A few days later, another important blood test result confirmed. He and Mr. E had no blood relation at all. Aunt Yin also confessed her sin in hiding it for her sister, his late wife, all these years. But Mr. Bai didn't blame his ex-wife or his current wife. He blamed himself for not loving the person beside him, which made her do that. However, he still regarded Qingyu as his biological son. Aunt Yun, moved, hugged him, saying it was good that she no longer had anything weighing on her heart and would wholeheartedly care for him and this family until the end of her life. As for Sue Wei, when she was interviewed by reporters, she officially affirmed that they had absolutely no blood relation, but she hadn't yet admitted her love for Qingyu. But he was different. Qingyu didn't hesitate to declare, "Yes, we are dating. My engagement with Yun Sha has been canceled. The only person I want to marry is Sue Wei." That evening, after so many ups and downs, they were together, sharing a passionate, sweet kiss. The next morning, he left early for surgery, but didn't forget to give her instructions. When she tried to find him, Eben unexpectedly appeared and demanded to see Sue Wei, offering to tell her the truth about the accident years ago on the condition that he received a large sum of money. But before he could elaborate, Qiuyu unexpectedly appeared, making Eben quickly flee, only able to leave a message: "If you want to know the truth, come to my house." Not long after, Sue Wei went to Eben's house. She had a hunch someone was following her. She was about to pull out her pepper spray when she realized it was Qingyu. Knowing she was looking for the truth, the two entered together. Unexpectedly, a large cabinet collapsed, breaking the necklace Sue Wei was wearing, revealing a hidden memory card that had been concealed for so long. When they opened the memory card, they found valuable materials: photos of Sue Wei's father, Mr. E, and a man whom Qingyu recognized as Qiu Sheng, Qiuyu's father. Previously, The three had co-founded the Angel Project to support orphans and entrusted Qiusheng with its management. But after the mysterious accident, the project was suspended. The card also contained an encrypted file. Remembering the little secret her father once mentioned, Sue Wei tried entering her parents' and her own birth dates. The password opened a video recording of her father discovering Qiusheng's embezzlement and demanding he confess. They gradually suspected that Qiusheng himself caused the accident to cover up his crimes. However, this evidence didn't clearly show Qiusheng's face, making it difficult to present to the police right now. The next day, Sue Wei arranged to meet Qiuyu, hoping to learn more about his father. But Qiuyu dodged the topic, asking her if she was sincere about Qingyu. Sue Wei affirmed she loved Qingyu and only saw Qiuyu as family. Just then, Qingyu arrived and stood by Sue Wei's side. Witnessing their intimacy, Qiuyu's eyes gradually darkened. He tried to suppress the surging anger. That evening, Qingyu returned to Sue Wei's house. He warned her to keep her distance from Qiuyu because he was extremely dangerous. He also showed her a camera recording from his office, showing Qiuyu secretly entering to steal the DNA test results. He asked her if she didn't know Qiuyu liked her. Sue Wei affirmed she only saw him as a younger brother. The next day, Sue Wei and Qingyu visited little Shitan before her surgery. The three of them played together, looking like a real family. But the saddest person was still Qiuyu. That evening, as Sue Wei and Qingyu were having a romantic dinner, his father unexpectedly called, telling him and Sue Wei to come home immediately. Then Yunsha suddenly appeared, declaring she was pregnant and demanding he take responsibility. Despite Qingyu asserting his innocence, Sue Wei calmly said that if the baby was born, she would accept it. In the midst of the confusion, Yunsha suddenly remembered that the man that night had a mole on his collarbone. Qingyu immediately pulled up his shirt to prove he didn't have that feature. At this point, Sue Wei spoke up. That person was Qiuyu. Yunsha later met Qiuyu and confirmed he was the child's father. Although Qiuyu wanted her to have an abortion, Yunsha insisted on keeping the baby. Just then, Sue Wei and Qingyu were shocked to discover that little Shi Tan had disappeared, and Qiuyu also couldn't be reached. It turned out Qiusheng had kidnapped Qiuyu, demanding he get the memory card from Sue Wei in exchange for the child's safety. Although Qiuyu pleaded for little Shi Tan, saying the child had surgery today, Qiusheng didn't care. He also revealed a shocking truth. Qiuyu's biological mother had died in the nursing home. He had always used her to threaten Qiuyu, and even Qiuyu was not his biological son. So, he would have no mercy for Qiuyu and the baby. Qiuyu thought of his only remaining blood relative, who was also gone. He was heartbroken. Then an accident occurred, unintentionally causing Yunsha to lose the baby. In another development, while the two went to Qiuyu's house to find him, they discovered the wiretapping device Qiuyu had installed to monitor Sue Wei. She was extremely disappointed in her younger brother, but now both he and little Shi Tan had disappeared, making her both angry and worried. Returning home, as Sue Wei was resting, Qingyu received a mysterious message, asking him to go to the warehouse alone to rescue little Shi Tan. As soon as he arrived, he was immediately knocked unconscious by Qiuyu. Sue Wei woke up and didn't see Qingyu anywhere. She only received a call from Qiuyu, demanding she bring the memory card for an exchange to save little Shi Tan. At the warehouse, Sue Wei questioned Qiuyu. Did your father kidnap little Shi Tan? Instead of answering, Qiuyu played her some words from Bin, who said Qiusheng had forced him to cause the accident for the Bai family. After that, he asked for mercy. Qiuyu hit him with a stick, saying it was revenge for his sister, then wanted Sue Wei to go abroad with him and abandon everything. But she refused. She painfully asked, "Why did you wiretap me? Are you trying to cover up your father's crimes?" Qiuyu collapsed, tearfully recounting the brief happiness he felt when he finally found his biological mother. But then, he personally witnessed his mother go insane from being mentally tortured by Qiusheng because he wasn't Qiusheng's biological son. Qiuyu pleaded for love from Sue Wei, but she only saw him as a younger brother. Hearing this, Qiuyu became even more enraged to the point of madness. At this moment, Sue Wei desperately begged him to release little Shi Tan, but Qiuyu coldly demanded she hand over the memory card in exchange for the child's safety. As she was about to give it to him, Qingyu, having escaped his bonds, rushed over. In a breathtaking moment, Qiuyu held a knife to Sue Wei's throat. "If you just agreed to come with me, I'll go back to being the person you once liked." Qiuyu's voice choked, mixed with pain and fragile hope. But Sue Wei shook her head, resolute. "The person I love is Qingyu." Those words pierced Qiuyu's heart like a knife, making Qingyu even more worried. Seeing the situation was too dangerous, Qingyu loudly said, "Don't harm Sue Wei. If you need anything, aim at me." Qiuyu's eyes blazed. "Then kneel." He couldn't resist a powerful kick that sent him to the ground. "I met you before him. Why don't you like me, but love him?" Qiuyu roared, full of resentment, then gave two choices. Either Qingyu dies, or Sue Wei dies. In a tense atmosphere, Sue Wei unexpectedly bit Xiao Yu's hand hard to regain her freedom. Qin Yu immediately rushed forward, threatening Xiao Yu with a knife. He saw the hatred, but also felt the despair tearing at the boy's eyes. Finally, Qin Yu dropped the knife, choosing forgiveness, hoping for a change. But that hope was extinguished when Xiao Shang's men stormed in. Violence erupted. Qin Yu was beaten down. Sue Wei was tied up with him. Xiao Shang took the memory card from Xiao Yu's hand, then had his men beat Xiao Yu unconscious on the spot. Amidst the raging fire, Xiao Yu woke up, cut his bonds, but Qin Yu had already taken Sue Wei away. The fire then flared up violently. Xiao Yu, injured, lay there. Although Sue Wei wanted to save him, she was helpless. The next morning, Sue Wei was desperate as there was no news of little Shitan or Xiao Yu. When hope seemed to have faded, she unexpectedly saw little Shitan return. All three of them were reunited like a family. From afar, Xiao Yu quietly watched, then turned and walked away. He had secretly used the real memory card to expose Xiao Shang's crimes, making him pay the price before the law. Sue Wei, representing Shengyu Group, officially announced a partnership with the hospital to restart the Angel Fund, a humanitarian project hoping to provide a chance at life for children with serious illnesses who couldn't afford treatment. On that special day, Qin Yu brought a proposal ring. In front of his family and loved ones, he presented it to Sue Wei as an invitation to spend the rest of their lives together. Sue Wei's heart pounded intensely. She gently nodded, not hiding the joy in her eyes, accepting the proposal with everyone's witness and blessing. They exchanged rings, symbols of eternal love, then sealed their commitment with a sacred kiss. Little Shitan rushed over, hugging both of them tightly, as if confirming that a family had truly formed. The child officially became Sue Wei and Qin Yu's adopted daughter, a small family filled with love. In the distance, Yin Sha quietly turned away. Sometimes, letting go is also a way to find one's own happiness. The image of Mother Sue, Father Bai, and little Shitan together closes a journey of the film. Don't forget to leave a like or a comment below the video to let us know your feelings. For now, goodbye and until next time.